We welcome you back to lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream. Back from a week of vacation to continue our conversations with student athletes, coaches, different members from throughout the Lewis and Clark College community, and our alumni base, 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live. You can also join us anytime by watching our shows on demand at youtube.com/lcpios. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Goff. I'm the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark, the Pioneers out of Portland, Oregon. As we move into the last week of October, we have 19 intercollegiate athletic programs competing in the Northwest Conference with other institutions from throughout Northwest Oregon and the state of Washington, and over 430 institutions nationwide competing at the NCAA Division III level. So a chance for our student athletes to compete across the nation, and with a robust overseas study program, a chance for our students and student athletes alike to get opportunities globally. Of course, when we're not in the middle of a pandemic. Northwest Conference play suspended through at least January 1st, 2021. We will continue to update you at lcpioneers.com or lcpioneers.com/COVID with any developments that change since that announcement was made in mid-August. Excited for our guest today to get back into live shows and current student athletes too. We'll have Ramez Attia join us on the show. Talk to him about his senior year, men's tennis, going into not only uncertain times with practices and when competition will resume, etc., but also hear about some exciting moments, most recently in Vent, Oregon, a competition for entrepreneurs that he and his teammate Matt Brown, his entrepreneurial teammate from men's basketball, Matt Brown, won. We'll find out what that entails. I mean, we saw a really cool video that we shared on our social media of them celebrating the win, but also, what's it mean for the future? And he'll talk about the Bates Center too, which is a really key component of the opportunities available on the Lewis and Clark campus. We invite you to get in touch with the program. You can via email, sports@lclark.edu, or comment in the Facebook Live comments below. If you have any questions for Ramez, if you have any questions or suggestions for future guests, we certainly invite you to get involved on our Facebook Live page. You can also reach us on social media, otherwise with Twitter and Instagram, our handle on both, LC Pioneers, and we continue to enjoy as much as we can the homecoming at home celebration that's going on right now, thanks to our alumni office, thanks to you for joining us in athletics for some events that we had earlier in the month. Those homecoming at home events continuing, an opportunity for you to get involved by going to go.lclark.edu/homecoming throughout this final week. It was a full month of October event, and that continues throughout the rest of this week. But also, can't thank you enough for a huge amount of support that you showed us for Day of Champions. Over $109,000 raised for our intercollegiate athletics programs. Over 440 donors were involved in that effort last Tuesday. It's so exciting to see the support of everyone who really champions Lewis and Clark's Building Champions philosophy, building champions in the classroom, competition, across character and community. It really was neat to see. So thank you so much for everyone who got involved with Day of Champions last week, with over $109,000 raised. And then, of course, we invite you, as I mentioned, to go to your YouTube page. That's youtube.com/lcpios, and you can see all of our past shows with a playlist of lcpioneers.com live. A couple weeks back, with our last string of live shows, we did have our Hall of Famers on the show, which was super cool. So be sure to check that out. LC Pioneers on YouTube at youtube.com/lcpios. So with that said, let's bring in our guest for today, a senior for men's tennis, Lewis and Clark, joining us, Ramez Attia, on the show, lcpioneers.com live. Ramez, thanks for taking time to join us today and catch us up on how you've been. I'm so eager to talk about Invent Oregon, but let's kind of start with how are you doing? We're in the middle of the fall semester, last week of October. How are things going for you?
Oh, first of all, thank you for having me. This semester it's been going pretty fast. I don't know if it's because we're ending it early or the new hybrid system or what it is. But I think we're doing well overall. I think classes are going well, and I can't believe we're at the end of October already.
Now, you decided to take classes on campus. Describe some of the options that were available to students because of the pandemic. You mentioned hybrid as an option as well. What made you decide to come to campus, and how have things been going in that regard?
So they gave us the option of living off campus and doing hybrid classes. So some classes online, some classes in person, living on campus and doing hybrid, or being completely remote and doing only online classes. I think I mean, it's my senior year, so I wanted to be on campus for this last 2 semesters, and I think that was the biggest driving factor for me.
Now, you're part of this tennis program and a key member of it, number one singles slot and all of that. Right now, the tennis program, not sure when competition will resume. What are activities around the team? What have they looked like in the fall semester, and what are you hoping for as far as, best case scenario to get back on the court?
I mean, one thing I is that we have a really young team this year. So we, other than me and Riley, another senior, the rest of the team is underclassmen. So I think obviously I won a season. It's my last season, and I would like to play, but I think we should look ahead. We have a young team. We're practicing. We're allowed to practice, so that's good. I think getting ready and building that team for the future, even if we don't have a spring season, will be key for our school uh, later on.
Now, ultimately, when you look back at your decision to attend Lewis and Clark and compete for the Pioneers, what was it that brought you to Lewis and Clark? Why did you choose to compete here?
Um, I had to. I was choosing between two schools, and the driving factor was my visit. I visited Lewis and Clark. I stayed with the team, and I there was basically no comparison to the other team. I felt at home right away. Obviously, it helped that my brother was at the school, but even then, I felt that the guys, it was a really good community to be in, a really good culture to be in, and um, that was definitely the main factor.
We're talking to Ramez Attia on the show, senior for Lewis and Clark men's tennis, lcpioneers.com live for this Tuesday, October 27th, 2020. You mentioned your brother, Ryad, was on our show prior, preceded you on campus by a couple of years. Competition wise, between you and your brother, was it always friendly? Was it highly competitive? Give us some insight what it was like to compete with your brother.
I think he always pushed me. He knew that I could be way better, and I think it was a very healthy competition. He liked to he liked to push me to the limit just to just to prove to me that I can get to the next step. I don't think there was any like bad blood or anything like that on the court. We played once or twice back in Egypt in a tournament. He beat me both times. And then when we came to college, we got the opportunity to play doubles together, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, elaborate on the advantage of playing with your brother when it comes to doubles as opposed to any of your other teammates. Is there some of that sibling connection that's just inherent?
Definitely. I mean, it obviously depends on your relationship with your sibling, but me and my brother are really close. So when we were on the court together, we were just in sync, and we had a really good season that season. My sophomore year, it was his senior year, and it worked out really well. It was the first time for us to actually play together on the doubles court, which was pretty special.
Yeah, I find that actually very surprising. But you talked about going up head to head with him, and then that first season you were here. Now you're, like I said, in your senior year. We're hoping for a season, but you're still competing for this team and practicing with this coaching staff. So let's get some insight on head coach Jimmy Chow. A lot of other coaches helping out with the tennis programs at Lewis and Clark. What's it like to compete for Coach Chow? And give me some insight into the team.
Um, I mean, he's since the day I came, he's always had our backs, even as assistant coach. Jimmy takes care of us definitely, and Lewis and Clark's tennis team is in a unique position because we have so many assistant coaches that are willing to volunteer their time to play with us. And but I mean, playing for Jimmy was pretty special to me. I was pretty upset that our season got cut short last semester because I thought we had a really good preseason. We were all really locked in. We had a couple. Our first match was we took care of business. But yeah, Jimmy's the man for sure.
What's it like to compete in the Northwest Conference when it comes to tennis? The Northwest Conference is well known in a lot of sports at the Division III level for being highly competitive, specifically to tennis. What's it like?
When I first was deciding what division to play, there's a lot of bad rep about Division III and all that stuff. But when I came and saw the level for myself, I was like, um, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. This is top level tennis. This is highly competitive, and whoever said Division III can be competitive doesn't know what they're talking about.
LCPioneers.com live. Thanks for joining us on Tuesday. We're talking to Ramez Attia, senior for Lewis and Clark men's tennis. You can join us 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live. All of our past shows available, youtube.com/LCPios. I mentioned it at the top. I'm so eager to talk about Invent Oregon. This was a competition that was held very recently. Describe what that competition is and the end result for you and your team.
So the Invent Oregon is a statewide pitch competition, and you only qualify it for the competition if you have a physical product. And our journey started at Winterim. It's a Bates Center event every January, and we pitched our idea that I'll get into in a second. And we ended up qualifying for Invent Oregon, which was before the pandemic, supposed to end in June, but got extended over until September because of the pandemic, which gave us the unique opportunity to be able to participate, and we end up winning it. Because without the pandemic, I would have been in season, Matt would have just finished season. We both were taking heavy load classes. Both of us were working 20 hours a week at a part-time job. So we were extremely busy and weren't entirely sure if we were going to be able to give it the attention it deserved to be able to perform well in the competition.
Describe the product for us.
Yeah, and I was going to say, in some sense, the pandemic worked in our favor a little bit in terms of giving us time. But our product is essentially it's a breathalyzer that communicates with the car's ignition system. And if you drink and don't pass a blood alcohol level test, it would basically tell your car not to start the engine. So it saves you from driving under the influence.
And so you go and pitch this product virtually. Describe the competition on pitch day, what you had to do, how hard it was maybe to wait for an announcement. Walk us through that day.
So it was 18 teams, and we were the first ones on to pitch at 9 a.m. And other than the pressure of going first, we had to wait until 2 p.m. for the announcement to see who wins. So it was a long day. I think they only gave us 5 minutes to pitch, and then there's 5 minutes of questions. And I think we did a really good job in the pitch, but then watching every other team, and we're talking like Oregon State, we're talking U of O, we're talking OHSU, we're talking like big schools with big funding behind them. Just watching their pitch after pitch after pitch, we started getting a little worried, be like, because we never heard their inventions before the final. And we're like, okay, we did good, but there are some really good ideas out there. So we got, we're literally sitting on the couch, couldn't move until the event was over.
Yeah, we'll retweet that video that we shared on Twitter of you celebrating that win and the
Yeah.
announcement, plus the People's Choice winner. And so, I guess my question is I read through the article, hearing about your experience that our public communications team did. You attribute a lot of the reason for you being at Lewis and Clark still, and for winning this competition, to the Bates Center. What is the Bates Center?
So I'll walk you through. So when I first came, in terms of academics, I wasn't extremely happy, and I was talking to my family about transferring out after my brother graduates, so after my sophomore year. And then coincidentally, I signed up for Winterim through the Bates Center my spring semester of my sophomore year, and I just fell in love with the whole department. The Bates Center of Entrepreneurship has so much to offer. The one thing that I would advise every student or everybody listening to this is that you have to reach out to the Bates Center for them to be able to help you, because obviously there's so much they can do in terms of advertising what they do, but when you show initiative and reach out to them, they take really good care of you. Chris Hutchings and Katarina Hunter, associate directors, they put so much work into the events that they host. They put so much effort, and when you show the same amount of effort, they really take care of you.
I know you have to get going to a class, so let's close with this. You win this competition with Event Oregon. You talk about the impact of the Bates Center. What are your plans post Lewis and Clark? How do some of the entrepreneurial aspects likely stay with you after graduation?
So Matt and I talked about this, and we're definitely gonna roll this out. We felt like a responsibility, for, especially because how big the problem we're trying to solve is. We felt a responsibility for us to follow through on this and see how far we can get. Obviously, Plan B, will apply to grad school just in case. You never you learn to have Plan Bs, and I think Plan B will be grad school. But definitely, main post grad goal will be to see how far we can get with the startup.
Yeah, well, good luck with all of that. I am also rooting for a season, obviously. Would love to see you back on the tennis court for your senior year. But thanks for your perseverance. Thanks for your time today. And so amazing what you and Matt have been able to do with that competition. Ramez Attia, thank you for joining us on lcpioneers.com Live.
Thank you for having me.
Fun conversation and amazing. I mean, we shared the story. If you haven't seen it, we put it in the comments for Facebook Live. And one of my favorite things about Lewis and Clark is the experiential nature of the liberal arts education. I started my collegiate life at a liberal arts institution, and the experience, the opportunity at Lewis and Clark feels different. And the stories that we hear from student athletes and graduates, alumni who come on the show now and talk about ways that Lewis and Clark helped them figure out a path, and in this case with Ramez, staying on campus where he otherwise may have gone somewhere else because of one aspect, the Bates Center for Entrepreneurship and Leadership. And now there's an opportunity too with the Bates Center for a minor, which didn't exist in the past too. So I think it's a really neat testament to the way that Lewis and Clark can invest in the success of a student, whatever that success looks like to them, and really find a way for them to be successful. And that's what Ramez did. Is I mean, he's a highly talented person, both on the tennis court, in the classroom, but then you have this other element that enhances that even more and maybe has helped him find a path down the road. So really neat talking to both the Attias on this show. And if you've ever not seen the episode with Ryad, his older brother, that's available on our YouTube page, youtube.com/lcpios. It is great to be back. We have 2 more live shows this week. We'll talk to Hannah Martin tomorrow from women's basketball, a transfer junior a year ago, and get a chance to get insight on how basketball practices are going so far for the Lewis and Clark Pioneers. And then we'll get Sam Taylor, the head coach of both men's and women's rowing, on the show this upcoming Thursday. Second time we've had a chance to have Sam on the show. And those episodes are coming your way tomorrow and Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live. Big thanks to Ramez for joining us, and big thanks to you for watching. We are going to play the Winterim commercial because that is the one that talks about the specific in between fall and spring semester programming that the Bates Center puts on each and every year. Really impactful. I've had a chance to attend one of the pitch competitions that come out of that event. And so we'll play that as we toss it to the end of the show, and we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Ryan Goff. Big thanks. It's been a lot of fun. I missed you. And we'll see you again tomorrow for more lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream. Goodbye, everybody.
Hi, I'm Nick Lombardi. Something I've learned at Winterim this year is how to communicate a vision.
My biggest takeaway from Winterim is probably the networking. Getting to talk to everybody, connect with people for the future is one of the most valuable things, and I did Winterim last year, came back for more this year.
I think a way in which my liberal arts education has really helped me and my group formulate our ideas is that concept of critical thinking and having many different backgrounds. Me being an econ major and my two group mates being chemistry majors, we really get that well-rounded background, well-rounded ideas.
I think overall it's absolutely worth doing. You find yourself not only being more prepared for, say, well, this next semester, on top of being more prepared for life in general.
I think everyone should take Intro to Chemistry because the chemistry department here is phenomenal. Everyone I've known has had a good experience with everyone in that department, so I think it's a worthwhile course to take.
What is one class that everyone should take at Lewis and Clark? I really enjoyed Education in a Complex World. You kind of get to discuss all the issues that exist within education today, and you get to kind of explore that by going to classrooms firsthand and volunteering with children, which I thought was a really wonderful experience.
One class that everybody should take at Lewis and Clark is anything with Kundai though. I think he definitely changed how I thought about rhetoric and media studies and just education in general.
For me, it was International Affairs, just Intro to International Affairs, because I think it really gives a good perspective on important issues around the world.